They thought he was lost, too. When the commander was captured, no one believed a rescue was possible. Days passed, hope faded, and the unit prepared to move on. But then, against all odds, he returned, battered, bloodied, and silent, carrying the very man they thought they'd never see again. The night was thick with fog, muffling the sound of distant gunfire. The unit had been moving through hostile terrain for days, nerves frayed and bodies worn thin. Captain James Harrington, their commanding officer, kept the men steady with his calm voice and unshakable presence. But no amount of experience could stop what came next. The ambush was sudden, shadows exploding from the tree line, gunfire cracking through the mist. Chaos swallowed the night, men scattered for cover, shouting orders drowned by the roar of bullets. In the confusion, Harrington was struck down, dragged by enemy soldiers into the darkness before anyone could react. By the time the firefight ended, the captain was gone. Back at camp, silence weighed heavier than the smoke that lingered in the air. The men stared into the flames of the fire, their commander's absence leaving a void larger than words. "They'll kill him," one soldier muttered. "Or worse," another replied. No one spoke after that. The mission log was clear. They had to move forward. There was no rescue plan, no backup, no orders to retrieve him. The risk was too great. But one man refused to accept it. Sergeant Daniel Cole sat apart from the others, his jaw tight, his fists clenched around the rifle laid across his knees. He had served under Harrington for years, seen him stand in the line of fire for his men, seen him fight battles no one else dared. And now, when his commander needed him most, everyone was ready to walk away. Everyone but him. Daniel lifted his eyes from the fire, the decision already carved into his heart. If no one else would go, he would. Sergeant Daniel Cole waited until the camp had gone quiet. The others, though restless, finally gave in to exhaustion, their faith in a rescue long gone. Daniel, however, couldn't sleep. The image of Captain Harrington being dragged into the darkness gnawed at him like a wound that wouldn't close. He rose silently, strapping on his gear. His rifle hung at his side, a combat knife secured to his chest, and a single canteen filled with water. No backup, no orders, just the weight of loyalty driving him forward. The forest was alive with danger. Every step into enemy lines was a gamble. The moonlight filtered weakly through the branches, casting twisted shadows across the ground. Daniel moved low and silent, every sound magnified in his ears. The snap of twigs, the distant murmur of enemy voices, the metallic clink of rifles being readied somewhere in the dark. He paused near a ridge, scanning the valley below. There it was, a makeshift enemy camp, torches flickering against canvas tents. Guards circled lazily, but even at a distance, Daniel's eyes caught what he was looking for. In the center, bound and bloodied, was Captain Harrington. Daniel clenched his jaw. His commander was alive. For now. A plan began to form in his mind. He counted guards, noted patrol patterns, watched the rhythm of the camp. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was all he had. With a deep breath, Daniel whispered to himself, "Hold on, Captain. I'm coming." Then, with the patience of a predator, he slipped into the shadows and began his descent into enemy territory. The enemy camp pulsed with noise. Guards laughing, boots crunching on gravel, the hiss of torches fighting the wind. From the ridge above, Sergeant Daniel Cole lay motionless, eyes locked on every detail. Timing was everything. He waited, watched, counted the guards' footsteps, the intervals of their patrols, the blind spots where shadows swallowed their vision. His heart pounded, but his breathing slowed into a hunter's rhythm. At last, the opening came. 2 guards broke formation, drifting toward the far side of the camp where the trees pressed close. Daniel slipped into the darkness, moving like a ghost between trunks, his boots careful on the damp soil. The closer he drew, the louder the sounds of the camp grew. Voices, metal clanking, the muffled groans of his captured commander. Then, in a blur of motion, Daniel struck. His knife flashed once, swift and silent. The first guard crumpled without a sound. The second turned too late. Daniel's arm locked around his throat, dragging him into the shadows until his struggles ceased. The sergeant eased the body to the ground, eyes already scanning for the next threat. His pulse thundered, but his resolve was iron. For every step forward, the risk multiplied. He could see the captain now, slumped against the post, rope cutting into his wrists, blood streaking his face. Harrington was alive, but fading fast. Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. This was only the beginning. The hardest part still lay ahead. And in the silence of the forest, one thought burned through him like fire. I will not leave him here. Daniel's chest burned with every breath, but his focus was unshakable. He moved deeper into the camp, slipping from shadow to shadow, each heartbeat louder than the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. The commander's silhouette was closer now, tied, beaten, but alive. 2 guards flanked the prisoner, their rifles slung casually, convinced no one would dare come this far. Daniel crouched low, gripping a stone in his hand. With a quick flick of his wrist, he hurled it into the bushes behind them. The sound snapped their attention. "Go check it out," one muttered. As the guard turned, Daniel lunged. His knife struck fast, precise. The soldier collapsed without a cry. The second spun, eyes wide, but Daniel's rifle butt caught him across the jaw, dropping him instantly. The path was clear. Daniel rushed forward, kneeling beside Captain Harrington. His face was pale, his lips cracked, but his eyes fluttered open. Recognition sparked faintly in them. "Cole," he rasped, voice dry as dust. "You're not alone, sir," Daniel whispered, cutting through the ropes with shaking hands. The captain slumped into his arms, barely able to stand. Daniel heaved him over his shoulder, muscles screaming under the weight. The camp behind them stirred with uneasy voices, shadows moving, torches lifting. Time was running out. With every ounce of strength left, Daniel slipped back into the darkness, carrying his commander the same way Harrington had once carried the weight of them all. And for the first time that night, hope returned. The night erupted behind them. Shouts rang out, torches flared, and boots pounded against the dirt as the enemy realized their prisoner was gone. Daniel staggered under the weight of Captain Harrington slung across his shoulders, every step a battle of will over muscle. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he kept moving, deeper into the trees, away from the spreading glow of the camp. Bullets cracked through the night, bark exploded from nearby trees as gunfire chased them. Daniel dropped low, dragging the captain behind a ridge. He pressed his body flat against the earth, chest heaving, eyes scanning the darkness for a path forward. "Put me down," Harrington rasped, voice hoarse with pain. "You won't make it carrying me." Daniel shook his head fiercely. "Not a chance, sir." He shifted his grip, hauling the commander back onto his shoulders. With one hand he clutched his rifle, the other gripping Harrington's arm to keep him steady. The forest became a gauntlet. Searchlights pierced through the fog, beams sweeping dangerously close. Enemy voices barked orders in the distance. Daniel moved like a shadow, weaving through branches, lowering himself into streams to mask his trail, never stopping. At one point, a patrol passed within feet of them. Daniel pressed himself against the mud, holding his breath, feeling Harrington's faint pulse against his back. The patrol lingered, torches glowing, before finally moving on. Only when silence returned did Daniel rise, pushing forward, step after agonizing step. The border of friendly lines was still miles away, but as long as he could move, as long as Harrington breathed, Daniel knew he wouldn't stop. Because loyalty wasn't a word to him, it was a promise. The The forest seemed endless, every tree a shadow hiding danger, every step echoing like thunder in Daniel's ears. His body screamed for rest, but his will pushed him forward. Harrington's weight bore down on his shoulders, heavier with each mile, yet Daniel refused to falter. Suddenly, a flare burst overhead, bathing the woods in harsh red light. Enemy voices roared closer. Search parties were tightening the noose. Daniel dove into a shallow ravine, rolling with the captain in his arms. His chest heaved as he pressed Harrington against the muddy bank. Above, boots stomped, flashlights stabbed through the trees, beams slicing the night just inches away. Harrington stirred weakly, his cracked lips parting. "Leave me. Save yourself." Daniel's jaw clenched. He gripped the captain's collar and whispered fiercely, "Not while I'm breathing, sir." When the patrol passed, Daniel dragged Harrington through the stream at the ravine's base, letting the water wash their tracks away. The cold bit into his bones, but the silence of pursuit gave him strength. Hours bled into dawn. The first rays of light filtered through the canopy as Daniel stumbled onto a ridge. His legs buckled, and then, through the haze, he saw it. The distant outline of friendly lines, but between them and salvation lay one final gauntlet, an open field exposed to enemy watchtowers. His breath caught, his heart pounding louder than gunfire. There would be no cover, no tricks, no second chances. Daniel adjusted Harrington on his shoulders, tightened his grip on the rifle, and whispered to himself, "One more step, one more mile, whatever it takes." Then, with the rising sun at his back, he pushed forward. The sun was climbing higher now, burning through the fog, casting long shadows across the open field. Daniel Cole stood at the tree line, his chest heaving, his body trembling from exhaustion. On his shoulders, Captain Harrington barely stirred, each breath shallow but steady. Ahead lay freedom, but also the most dangerous stretch of land he had faced. No rocks, no trees, no cover. Just raw earth under the gaze of enemy towers. Daniel adjusted his grip on Harrington, lowering him gently against the roots of an oak. For a moment, he allowed himself one deep breath. Then he checked his rifle. Half a magazine left, a knife strapped to his chest, nothing more. From the towers, movement caught his eye, guards shifting, scanning. They knew something was wrong. Daniel's jaw tightened. If he carried Harrington openly, they would both be gunned down before they made it halfway. There was only one way through. Create a diversion. He leaned down, gripping the captain's arm. "I need you to hold on, sir." Just a little longer, Harrington's lips parted, a whisper rasping out. "Don't you dare leave me." Daniel gave a faint, grim smile. "Not leaving. Just buying us time." He rose, slinging the rifle across his chest, and stepped into the clearing. His silhouette was outlined against the pale light of dawn. For a brief heartbeat, the world was still. Then came the shout from the tower and the crack of gunfire. Daniel sprinted, weaving, firing back in short, controlled bursts. The field lit up with chaos, bullets tearing into the dirt at his feet. He dove into a shallow ditch halfway across, heart pounding, lungs on fire. Behind him, the tower shifted focus, away from the unconscious captain, onto him, and for Daniel, that was enough. The battlefield fell into chaos. Gunfire roared. Smoke curled into the morning sky, and Daniel Cole's figure cut through it all, sprinting, firing, refusing to fall. Every bullet aimed at him was one less aimed at the man he had sworn to protect. At the edge of the forest, Captain Harrington forced his eyes open, vision blurred. Through the haze, he saw Daniel, his sergeant, his brother in arms, standing against an entire army. And then, like a miracle, came the sound. Whistles, shouts, gunfire from the opposite ridge. Friendly forces had arrived. The enemy towers faltered, their focus breaking as fresh reinforcements stormed the field. Daniel stumbled, collapsing to his knees, but refused to let go of his rifle. His last shots rang out before friendly soldiers pulled him and Harrington into their ranks. Hours later, in the safety of the field hospital, Harrington found his voice. He gripped Daniel's hand, his own trembling with weakness. "You saved me. You saved us all." Daniel shook his head, eyes heavy with exhaustion but steady with conviction. "I didn't do it to be remembered. I did it because you would have done the same for me." Word of the rescue spread quickly. Soldiers whispered his name with reverence. Commanders recorded it in their reports. But Daniel himself? He stayed silent. No speeches, no medals sought. He returned to duty as if nothing had happened. A man carrying scars, not for glory, but for loyalty. And though history books would scarcely mention him, those who lived because of his courage never forgot. Because sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who walk back into the shadows, carrying nothing but silence and sacrifice. The silent hero story reminds us that true courage doesn't always wear medals. Sometimes it walks quietly among us. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Like the video to help share it with more people. Comment below. Tell us what this story meant to you and where you're watching from. Every week we bring you powerful human stories of sacrifice, loyalty, and respect. Be part of this journey and let's keep their legacy alive together.